Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. We are continuing our art passports journey through Japan. Today we are going to go into textiles and kimonos. When studying Japan, I was really inspired by these garments. They have been around since the 16th century, and although they were a little bit more traditional in design before, they've always had great significance in Japan and the culture, worn by geishas as well as people wear them to tea ceremonies. These garments, they all have different kinds of patterns that have been inspired by nature. So you'll see a lot of florals, such as cherry blossoms, maple leaves, and then you'll see bamboo. The crane is a significant symbol in Japan, and the crane symbolizes longevity and good fortune, for example. So I would encourage you to look on my Pinterest board. There's a link in my bio. I have quite a few of these images that will kind of go through them a little bit here. You can see how amazing and graphic these are, and how inspiring they can be for an artist. So you can see the flowers are played in here, the birds, the flowers, the designs, the vines. So great sources of inspiration. And my goal is never to copy these patterns, but simply just be inspired by them. So maybe you take a color or a pattern and then you make it your own. So some more florals here. You can see the lotus here has another significance. So really, really great. This looks more like a garden scene. You can kind of see the either waves or fields, maybe rice fields here. Here's our crane right here. So a good place to start to get inspired. So I'm going to start on a larger piece, but I did want to show you again, if you hadn't seen before, I had worked in my art journal, kind of just playing around with these patterns. I'm trying to make them my own in my own style. Here's some flowers that maybe I'll start using some of those in this piece. This spread, I started playing around with some patterning here, and then just playing. So I will go ahead. I put two pieces of Strathmore paper down, and I've clear gessoed them already. And I'm actually going to start I'm going to have my color palette that I've been using, and I'm going to start for these with a circle. Like many other cultures, the circle, or as they call it, enzo in Japanese, has great meaning. Enzo symbolizes a moment when the mind is free to simply let the body create. And I think as creatives, when our mind is tied up, sometimes it's difficult to create. I know these days, especially, there's been a lot going on. It's hard to focus. So I think if you can art journal to kind of get you started and overcome those fears of putting the pen to the paper or the ink or, whatever your medium is to the paper. But for me, I think just putting something down. So I think I'm going to just start with the circle and then see if I can keep my patterning within the circle, or maybe I'll just go outside of it. We will see. I'm just here to play. So I'm going to speed this up. If you do have kids, I am going to have a kimono pattern, so an outline of a kimono. You could also use this in your work if artists. Up on my blog, there's a link in my bio where your kids can practice different designs and patterns. So I will take some photos of what we've created as well, but I just kind of took some of these pictures, showed them to my kids just as inspiration, and just saw what they came up with. And it might have nothing to do with Japan, or it might have everything to do depending on their age. But it's just fun. It's a great way to get them started and have them create with you. So I hope you enjoy the process and journey, and thanks for joining me. that I am close to finalizing these pieces. They both went a completely different direction than I expected, which is exactly why I love art and I love the process almost as much as I always like the final product. But this piece, I really tried hard to stay within that circle. As you could see with the time lapse, I went all over the place and then painted back over. But I do like how it turned out. I think it kind of has that simplicity that I was going for here. And then this one really has the busyness of the kimono, taking certain elements from the textiles and being inspired by the culture while still trying to make it my own. The very last thing I like to do, especially in mixed media pieces, is come in with some darks and lights. So here I have black and white as my, black being my darkest and white being my lightest color. So I think it really does finalize the piece when you go back in with a few final details and gives it some pop. So I hope you enjoyed the journey, and I would love to see what you created. Thanks.